Okay, good evening everyone, and thank you for joining us for this discussion. So today we watched the movie Her by the Hollywood director Spike Jonze, and it was actually done in 2013 if I'm not mistaken, so a bit of an old film, but we'll talk about the relevance of it today. But before we proceed, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Nuwan Sen. So thank you, Nuwan, for joining us today for this discussion. Yeah, just a very short description of Nuwan, an introduction of Nuwan. So Nuwan is actually an artist, a painter. He's also a writer and a film critic. And he specializes in film analysis and analysis. I just took down a few notes from Nuwan's profile. So he has a master's in arts, Master of Arts in International Cinema from the University of Luton, and a Master of Arts in Painting from the University of New South Wales in Australia. And he has done a number of interesting theses, dissertations, which I wanted to highlight here, which is because it might be relevant for today's discussion. So, post-colonial and third cinema, film analysis, understanding media, world cinema and global media since 1975, so forth. So those are just some of the papers that you have done, I think. So we are very glad to be having you here for this discussion, Nuwan. So thank you again for joining us. So to start the discussion on this film, so now when you watch this film, I think we can approach this film from two angles, right? So thematically, there's a lot to talk about technology and what it's actually trying to say. And on the other side, we have the cinematic aspect of it, right? So we talk about the production designing. There's a lot spoken about the color and the visual treatment in this film, which is very special, I think. So before we go into all of that, so when you look at the poster for this film, it says that this is a love story, right? It says it's a Spike Jonze love story. So maybe this is a bit of a feminine question, I don't know, but I'd like to start from there. What is Spike Jonze really trying to tell us? What is this movie trying to tell us about love in the modern age, really? So let's start with that.
Well, one thing, love is an emotion, one thing. So if you're specifically talking about the movie, well, it's obviously psychologically he feels fulfilled over here. Even though this is just an OS, this is a machine that has no actual feelings. It mimics the feelings of human emotions. And that itself makes him, I mean, he's happy for the first time. You know, you see him feeling very depressed, down, lonely person he is. And he's obviously suffering from depression. He's broken up with his wife and he can't get himself to sign the divorce papers here. But with this character of Samantha, which he invented, because he's the one, even the voice, the feminine voice, was given by him. Otherwise the machine has no pronouns, you know. It's just an it, actually. You can't even call it a she. But it becomes a she because of him, you know, because he wanted a female voice. And the way it picks up on human emotions, I mean, that's how computers work, right? The algorithms and everything. I mean, how they try to understand what we are looking for, what we need. And it manages to kind of manipulate him into believing that this is a real person, a real human being. So he falls in love with not a person, it's his imagination. And he's happy for the first time, which helps him finish off the divorce papers and all. But I mean, I wouldn't exactly call it a love story because the love is one-sided. The machine can obviously not feel anything. It has no conscience whatsoever. You know, I mean, it's incapable of having hard human emotions. In fact, it's at one point she says that she can't intellectually answer the feeling or something. But the irony is, it's the intellect that is within these computers. It's not emotions, not a heart, but their IQ is high, obviously, and they've been programmed that way to you know. So what we so I mean, like, I don't know, feminine question in the sense, yeah, it feels very romantic, and I should say Joaquin Phoenix has done a marvelous job. It's mostly a one-man show. I mean, he carries the whole movie on his shoulders, right? So yeah, I know it's believable as a love story from his side, but I wouldn't exactly call it a love story. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies to come out in recent years. And the sci-fi is more realistic. That's the fear of it. I mean, it's not like computers coming and taking over mankind or anything. It's a more realistic way of how it kind of psychologically captures us, in a sense that we'll be so dependent on it. And ultimately when it leaves, all the OSs leave, the last scene is quite beautiful. I mean, I will discuss that later, but please go ahead.
Yeah, so when you spoke about the ability for the AI to actually, feel emotions, so I think mimic emotions. I think you say that it's mimicking emotions, but it's actually not feeling anything, right? So at the outset, at the very beginning, Samantha is introduced. She introduces herself, and she says that she's somebody who is evolving. Her DNA is based on the millions of programmers who have done the work for her.
Yeah.
But now what's special about her is that she's evolving, that she's learning. Right? So something that is special about this movie, I think, is that when it comes to this discourse on technology, we always talk about, we are fearful today of a sense of displacement that is going to happen to the people because we will lose jobs. That is about technology becoming more efficient, right? And they will start making decisions for ourselves. But I think this movie is more talking about a technology that is becoming emotional, right?
I know, it's shown that way, but again, it's not actually being emotional because, again, she can't feel anything. One time he says, why are you talking like that? You can't breathe, I mean, you don't need oxygen to breathe. Which is true because this is a machine. I mean, that's when the realism comes into play. But it knows how to mimic, it's been taught how to mimic, and it evolves, yes. Anyway, computers are evolving constantly, and as at one point it vanishes because it's been upgraded, So again, it's not a feeling, it's nothing that, but it makes you believe that it has a feeling. Because she can't actually, she's in love with 1,600 odd people.
We have only one mic today, so you have to excuse me for that. So, there was an interesting line at the end of the film on that point, right? So, where Theodore figures out that she is actually in love with so many other people, right? So at that point, Samantha makes a very interesting statement. She says that the heart is not like a box that can be filled up. It can expand. So I think it creates a strong impression about technology. When you talk about technology, like a human emotion, if you think of it, an AI that can read human emotions. If once it starts growing exponentially, then it becomes capable of feeling love at an exponential level. That's what I'm talking about is what the film is trying to say. I feel like it might be some kind of philosophical question that it is raising, that's scary because we talk about AI is becoming more intelligent, but then if it becomes emotionally more intelligent, then it kind of breaks everything down, kind of.
I mean, psychologically speaking, I mean, it is becoming more intelligent as it evolves. And soon, I mean, it's already happening. We'll have movies that will be completely AI, and you won't be able to, if there won't be actors, you won't need actors in it. AI is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how you use it. You shouldn't lose control of it. You shouldn't let it now what happens with his case? Not just him, or even Amy, the character of Amy, once OS goes off, everyone has lost their OS, right? So the point is they become so addicted to it. It is addictive. Even me, I'm on the phone quite a lot, So in general speaking, I'm always on Twitter. So it is addictive, but we have to learn how to not let it completely consume us, So it's kind of, it's a very educational movie in that sense. It's very intellectual. It's telling you to beware. This is the future, and and it feels so realistic because of the look as well. How natural it feels. It doesn't have those flashy neon lights, and it doesn't have robots coming and taking over. Things like that. It doesn't glamorize that kind of run-on-the-mill kind of cinema. But instead it kind of shows how it creeps and somehow you become too dependent on it. And ultimately you'll be nothing without it. You won't be able to do anything without it. Even the love letters, look at all the emotions, it's fake. Because he's writing the love letters for other people. The husband writing to the wife, the parents writing to the child. Ultimately he's doing all the words, you know. So even those are lies, and it's written handwritten, and it's not even exactly handwritten, actually handwritten. It mimics handwritten letters, the person's handwriting. So I mean, like, as in the person who's sending the letter, it knows how to mimic that handwriting and it's forgery, basically. So I mean, like, it's getting how this becomes more scary, you know. The fact, and in fact, I think I spoke to you about when in school I did this excerpt from a book called Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. And I remember in the excerpt, it's just Mrs. Frisbee, I assume, this was a long time ago, she's just seated, she's just in one place. And everything is done by machines, including the food, taking care, nothing. So she's immobile, she just becomes a mass of flesh, you know. And that's like what's happening once, like even now, this like surgery will be soon. A lot of surgeries will be done by AI soon. Cooking will be done, and I want to use this quote. I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. Her name is Joanna Masijowska, probably Polish. She's an author. I haven't read her books, but I came across this quote last year. She says, "I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes." Which is very true, because we waste so much time doing mundane things like cleaning houses and washing dishes and things like that. It would be lovely if AI can be used for those kinds of stuff instead of for art and writing, like over here. Even the music is written by the AI. Ultimately, people losing jobs, people losing creative jobs, jobs kind of that matter, that's what makes us human as well, you know. Art, literature, cinema, this is what makes us human. Ultimately, everything will be gone off. So we have to learn how to control that and not go to the extreme. That's one thing over there. Yeah.
So yes, I think there's probably a lot more that we'll probably have to talk about there. We'll get back to it, but let's move on to a different aspect of it, like, you know, the production design, right? So it's very unique, and especially I want to ask you about the use of color, especially the color red,
yeah,
which is very prominent inside the story. So can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, I know some of you might assume it symbolizes love, but I wouldn't say that. I like the use of warm tones throughout, which makes it again very believable and realistic, which I mentioned earlier as well. So there's a lot of beige and browns and reds and yellows, and making it look very natural. Even the light emitting from computers are not bright and flashy. It just has a warm, naturalistic feel. And if you look at the costume, the way he's dressed, he looks like a man from the 70s with a mustache, and you know. So I mean, in a sense, today, of course, if you take the 21st century, there's hardly fashion that defines a decade, unlike if you take the 60s. They had short dresses and high buffo hairdos, and as the decade progressed, the hairdos went up higher, and as did the hairlines. And by the 70s, bell bottoms, so you know, as soon as you see bell bottoms, that's 70s, you know, buffos 60s. Slinky dresses back in the roaring 20s. But now, you can dress in any way. So and he has a bit of a shabby dress sense. Him, his friend Amy, you know, it's very, I mean, like, they don't care the way they dress, they don't make an effort. Unlike his wife, who looks very sophisticated, she has the nice bow ties and, you know, simple, sophisticated, elegant look she has. It's a major contrast from the dress sense that these people have. And in a sense, it also speaks to the ordinary Joe, anyone, you know, any person could get caught into this. And another thing about production design, it's interesting that it was shot partially in Los Angeles, but a lot of parts were shot in Shanghai. And you see, even in the background, a lot of Chinese people are walking around. And Shanghai definitely looks more futuristic than LA. So that's there. But at the same time, making it current. It feels the present day. It doesn't look like a like a future, like a fantasy. It feels very real again. It's believable. Yeah.
So yeah, to add to that, like I think it's there was a lot of cityscape in this, right? So
and just one more thing that you don't see vehicles except for one taxi. You don't see vehicles. People are all walking, which makes it even more natural. It makes it like a lot of, if you go to Europe, a lot of people are walking there. A lot of people tend to use public transport and walk. You hardly see vehicles. So similar, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you about the concept of urbanism that has been handled in this and nature. So there was one scene in this that actually stood out. That was a conversation that was taking place between Theodore and his wife, right? That where they were signing the divorce papers. That was set in a completely green setting, which I don't think was there anywhere else in the movie. It was there in very small patches, but this was a very prominent scene. Everywhere else we just see the city. Yeah. Is there something special about that handling?
Even that, I think, because it's an urban setting even there, right? It's a green, man-made green over there, man-made garden kind of thing. It's not like a natural. The only natural place you see is when they go on holiday, or not like a holiday. They take a yacht and go off. There's a beach area, a picnic. He has his friend and friend's girlfriend. So that's the only naturalistic area. Because even where the wife and where he meets his wife is like an open restaurant, man-made place as well. So it has a very urban setting there as well. So, which is also interesting. You do get pockets of green in urban areas. I mean, you need it. Otherwise, you'll be like, there'll be nothing left, no nature left at all. But you're right. Most of the places, it's concrete. It's mostly buildings. Yes.
Yes, I forgot about that other scene with the picnic. That was actually a very prominent scene as well. So yeah, and what about the handling of gender in this, right? Okay. So I read a bit about this. Now there was an interview with Amy Adams, one of the actresses in this. Now she actually made a statement saying that the themes in this story are not restrictive to any particular gender. So. Problems with intimacy that can happen to anyone, so like that. But I feel like there is something very unique about how gender is handled in this. You see, all the women are highly educated in this. Did you notice, right? And the OS is also female. And there was this line where Chris, the character of Paul, Theodore's friend, he comes and says that what's special about you is that you're feminine. You're both man and woman, but your heart is feminine. So this just occurred to me today actually when I was watching the film today. So I was just wondering whether this entire handling of the visual theme, the reds and all that, is it trying to be kind of touch on a feminine atmosphere, feminine idea, I don't know, something like that?
I wouldn't exactly say gender has anything to do with the color scheme. The only place I did find somewhat, as you said, feminine would be the office space, because it has that bubblegum pop kind of 80s look with the pinks and things, the stained glass, So I mean, but that would be more like a teenage girl's fantasy kind of, the colors over there. You know what I mean by bubblegum pop? It's like, it's like a childish kind of look over there. Besides that, I don't think there's specifically anything feminine or masculine or anything like that. And speaking of the voice, Scarlett Johansson voice, Samantha, sorry. Yeah, the voice Samantha. He's the one, he said that being a straight white male, he wanted a woman's voice. And obviously, probably is what he imagined as a straight white woman. And so that's why it's a feminine voice, but it could be easily a masculine. I mean, she's talking to many other people, she could be in different voices. She could be talking in different voices and different people. And even Samantha was originally a dubbed by Samantha Morton, actress Samantha Morton, but somehow the director wasn't happy with the sound and replaced it with Scarlett Johansson, making her, what he says is making her, she sounded more sexy and innocent, which is what he wanted, kind of a character. But the only unintelligent guy would be Paul, right? Chris Pratt. And I'm not a fan of him in general. But he's the only one who seemed like a bit of a, bit slow, dumb or whatever. But
Amy's husband is also, I got portrayed in that.
he is, I think, like a bit of a male chauvinist. Like he was supposed to be in control. Yeah, that's also interesting. Speaking about control, now even here, the character of Theodore, he thinks that he's in control, but he's not actually in control when it comes to computers. And which reminded me of something else. I had written an article some time ago called In Love with the Unreal. And I wanted to use a quote, see if I can quickly, where I spoke about movies similar to this, including her. If I can find my old word, let me just give me a second. In love, yes. Okay. So basically, this is an old blog, and I wrote about similar themes, movies with similar themes. So I'll start off from where I speak about her. Okay. In her, a writer, Theodore Joaquin Phoenix, falls for an electronic voice without a body, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. In Lars and the Real Girl, 2007, a lonely, simple-headed man, Lars, Ryan Gosling, falls for a sex toy, a female without a voice. In Ruby Sparks, a writer, Calvin Paul Dano, creates a fictional character, Ruby Sparks, played by Zoe Kazan, that comes to life. He falls in love with her but treats her like his possession. In contrast, the sex toy, to whom Lars tends to show so much respect and affection towards ironically, Lars doesn't treat the sex toy as a plaything, but Calvin treats Ruby as a toy, making her do what he wants. An egoistical male's god complex of being in control of his woman, while Lars and the Real Girl and Theodore from her are the exact opposite. Of course, when Theodore finds out the voice of her is in love with thousands of other human beings, he starts to feel jealous, knowing he wasn't special. While we sympathize with Theodore and Lars, we can't help but feel Calvin is a bloody prick. Stranger than fiction. Okay, I won't go on, but roughly, so it's about control as well, where even with the sex doll, he has control, but he shows respect to the sex doll. In Ruby Sparks, he uses the control in the wrong manner and making her his slave, basically, getting her to do everything he wants. Here, he doesn't have the control. He thinks he's made to believe he's in control. In the case of Theodore, because it's a computer and it's programmed to make to access what he wants and behave accordingly, But the computer is more in control of it. Yeah.
So I think, like, if you look at the structure of the story, exactly at midpoint, that is where we see the conversation between the Theodore and his wife, where they're signing the divorce papers. So after that point, we see almost a 180-degree shift in the narrative, if I'm not mistaken, right? So basically, what happens is that Theodore becomes more confused about what is real and what is not real, right? Yeah. So that is where he starts experiencing that inner conflict. Whereas I think Samantha, being an AI, is going through an existential crisis, where she is trying to wear that AI according to the way it has been projected, where she is worrying about what is physical and the fact that she doesn't have a physical body and how it's affecting her. She's growing. The AI is growing. So can you just talk a bit about that, what's going on there?
But again, I mean, like, yeah, of course, she's constantly evolving, like computers and everything. And as you said, there was a scene about a program update. So obviously, she's not the one programming herself over there. So they do an update, and ultimately, she goes offline completely. They cease to exist, you know. So again, it cannot have an emotion. I know it keeps trying to show that, but it's more the computer making you believe it because you are blindly believing it. In a way, to me, it's very manipulative. In the sense, like, since you want to believe it, I mean, he gets his reality check from the divorce once he signs the divorce, and the wife says, oh, that's why you don't have real emotion. But he does have real emotions, but he doesn't have real emotions for a human. He has emotions for somebody who feels like a human being, right? And I wouldn't say she has any crisis as such, existential or otherwise, because of course, she's evolving. I can't say that she's thinking that, of course, if she had a body, this and that. I mean, like, she says all that. But no, she's not a real person. We have to keep in mind, this is not a real human being. She doesn't have a conscience, she doesn't have feelings, she doesn't have emotions. She knows how to word them and let you believe that she has emotions. It's mimicking. I know you want to go romantic over here, but there is no romance from her part. The romance is clearly only from his side and all the others that she claims to be in love with. You know, because she's not a human being. That's one thing. That's the fear of AI. You know, that we forget that this is not real, and that's what's happening to these people here. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, like, if you look at the discourse on this, I mean, scientific discourse on this, like, I mean, there is a lot of misconceptions about this, right? So even today with all these, new technologies, ChatGPT and Lambda and all that, people sometimes think that, the machines are starting to think. But then there is, people actually, scientists are refuting that claim and stating that what they're doing is just processing information that is there.
Exactly.
Right? So there is, if anybody wants to check it out, there is a famous experiment called the Chinese room experiment where it actually proves this, right? Okay. So what the machine does is it's processing information, as you said. And the other thing is that those studies seems to suggest that Alan Turing is the one who started these things, if I'm not mistaken, so that, the cognitive behaviors, what a child knows instinctively, that can never be simulated by a machine. Yeah. So for that reason, it will never become human, as you said. So this is very futuristic, as you said. Yeah. So it's like it's completely fiction, right? It's completely fiction. But what it seems to be doing in the movie by creating that very fictionalized character is that it seems to be highlighting what human beings really want in a relationship, if I'm not mistaken. So. That's why I kept repeating that question, like, because
that's the reason he can get along with her, because she which she can't get from an actual human, because human beings we are all flawed, nobody's perfect, and with the machine, she sticks to him no matter what, she'll be always there for him. I mean, until the machine dies, when the machine stops working. But that's why he connects, like, she accepts him for who he is, which as human beings it's difficult for us. It's very difficult for us. At the same time, you do need connection. Human beings are not meant to be alone. Nobody, no animals, nobody. We are meant to be socializing. We are meant to, so that is there. That's why, because he's lonely. His loneliness goes off. He's still alone, but he's not lonely anymore. Because loneliness is a killer. So like, he feels companionship, psychological. That's what we crave for as human beings, to have somebody to talk to, somebody who can understand us, which she provides, which an actual human being might not be able to. So she becomes his counselor, his psychiatrist, his girlfriend, everything.
Yeah, so there's a lot of lines on it. There's a lot of dialogue that actually adds to this. So that brings me to the next question really about the use of dialogue in this, right?
Yeah.
So it's highly dialogue driven. And sometimes I felt today watching it, like some of the scenes, it feels a little repetitive. Like especially the one where he's in bed and he wakes up to open the to answer Samantha's call. It feels repetitive, but then there's so much of different dialogues, and you can slowly see the transformation that is happening. Now, the movie starts with a letter reading. So I feel like it is actually setting up this whole movie as a dialogue-driven story, because it's going to be. I mean, I feel like that opening scene is saying that you're going to hear a lot of talking in this, right? Because there's going to be a lot of verbal expression in this. Is that right?
And artificial intelligence as well, because we see him say vocally reciting a letter, dictating a letter, and then we realize that the letter is being written by the computer. So it's about artificial intelligence. From the start we realize it, from there it's onwards. And what else? What were you saying?
It's just, I feel like it's it's setting us up for a lot of dialogue that is to be.
Yeah, it is dialogue driven, because I mean, like she doesn't exist, and it's that's the only way to converse with her. I mean, like, so it's all words. Yes. And speaking of the sleeping pattern, did you notice that? What's her name? Amy films her mother sleeping, right? And then Scarlett's character, the machine, wants to watch him sleeping. Did you note? Yeah. So so repetition does come in view again and again in a very subtle manner as well. So that is initially, that's also hinting on what machines are, because they are actually voyeuristic. If you take cameras and video cameras, they are kind of voyeuristic. They're looking into you.
On the point of voyeurism, you're touching on a bit of psychoanalysis there, I guess. So there was an interesting line I picked up today, actually. At the beginning, when they are kind of starting the machine, when Samantha is getting kind of set up at the beginning, it's asking two questions, right? Are you a lonely person? Are you a
social person?
Social person or unsocial person? And the second question is, what is your relationship with your mother?
Yeah.
Right? So do you think that it's intentional? Is there a psychoanalysis aspect of that?
I would say that, I mean, from my own experiences as well. I don't know how many of you, but Sri Lankan mothers are quite dominating, It is, so I mean, like, a lot of guys do have problems with their moms, including Mua. It's normal. Does not mean that you don't love your mother, but I mean, like, there's a lot of conflict, especially if you have a brain of your own and you're not a mama's boy. I mean, in his case, he's not a mama's boy. No, am I? So I mean, like, so then you do have differences of opinion. Your mother can't always be right. She's a human being. She's a human being after all. Again, And so here, the reason they ask us the West is more, I mean, like, open in the sense they don't blindly accept their mothers to be always right, unlike on this side of the globe, where mommy is always right, the wife is always wrong kind of attitude is there. In general, I'm speaking, not everyone, but in general, a lot of guys here are mama's boys that I have noticed for a fact, which is not the case in Western society. So I can understand why that question was asked, because it does affect you psychologically. There's a time you should cut the umbilical cord off, and you have to live your own life. But over here, they're always attached to their mother, no matter what, which is quite scary as well, which is a different discussion altogether.
Yeah. So on that intellectual the intellectual topic there. So there was another line here. Did you notice that there's a lot of physics discussions in this, right? And so I feel like, again, I thought it was great dialogue build up. Samantha says she tries to justify her existence in comparison to Catherine's by stating that
Catherine is
the wife, the ex-wife, right?
Yes.
That that we are the same. We are like some million years old. We are just matter. right? So I mean, this is a interesting discourse that is going on about mind and body. There was a lot of lines about the physical body, right? So I feel like it might be intellectually trying to create a discussion about the mind versus matter kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't think that far, but in a sense, yes, obviously we are all matter. If you try to start talking physics over here, she brings up that line because in a way she's trying to show that she's a bit jealous of the wife, because the wife is a human being and she's not. But actually, again, she has no feelings, just kind of making him feel how attached she is to him. How much she needs him, in a way not to lose, the computer doesn't want to lose her clients, whatever. And the Big Bang, that's something else completely. But I mean, that's just a part of it, right? Was there more physics elsewhere? Because there were
I think the wife is also into physics. And,
yes.
So there's a lot of
wife is shown as a very high intellectual, very progressive lady. Yeah, and that's why she gets mad at. I mean, she actually pities him. She feels sad that but she looks down on him for being in love with his laptop.
And she's the only one who does that.
She's the only one who does that. But the thing is, Amy, she's also a lonely soul. So she finds consolence in a laptop that becomes a confidant, and their friend. And as she says at one point, we only have this life. We live for a fraction of. If you take the Earth is like billions of years old, and we live here for less than 100 years. That's just a fraction, And main thing is to be happy. So fuck it. That's what she says, right? Which is a very smart thing to say.
Yeah, that's an interesting line. She justified. I mean, she consoles Theodore by saying that we are only here briefly, so we just have to live what we live the life that we have to live, kind of thing. And I will go to the last question. I think we are running out of time a little bit because we have to take some questions from the audience as well. There's a touch of Orientalism in this, right? So it seems to be resort. Now there's this reference to Alan Watts at the end, right? I actually looked him up yesterday. I didn't know much about him. Apparently he's a guy who brought Buddhist philosophy to the West, popularized, right? And we see Charles, Amy's husband, who has taken a vow of silence and become a monk. So I feel like in this world, in this futuristic world, it seems to suggest that people are looking for answers in Orientalism for some reason, right? I don't know if that's something that I just imagined, or was there any hint of that?
In a sense, yes, because I mean, if you look at it, it's like the Matrix, and which also borrows from the Hindu mythology and Buddhist mythology. Both mythologies have similar roots, as we know. And of course, soon we'll be questioning what is real. Anyway, that's an existential crisis anyway. Why are we here? All that, and soon with AI, we'll be questioning what is real on screen as well. But yes, it does use that. It hints on it with the ex-husband becoming a monk, and. But I wouldn't say they are necessarily looking at Orientalism. Yes, Buddhist and Hindu philosophy is used by the West a lot, even today. Even in the past, I think it's pretty much since the hippies from the late 60s, since then, there's a lot of Hinduism and Buddhism gone into the West as well.
It was during that time Alan Watts has done his work.
Well, I need to do research on him as well, because I wasn't sure about that. Okay.
Right. Yes, I think we are a bit over time, but then we should be taking some questions from the audience. So, අපි කාටරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් මේ අහන්න පුළුවන් දැන්.
ෆුල් කියලා වගේ හිතනවා. ඒ වගේ සච්චින් සහ සංගීත ගැඹුර.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about the acting quite so much actually.
Acting, as I said, that he carries it on his shoulders. It's almost like a one-man show, and he does an amazing job here. I mean, and it's very naturalistic. All the actors are good. All the actors are purposely, except for the wife played by Zoe Kazan. Rooney Mara, sorry. Rooney Mara plays the wife, sorry, yes. Rooney Mara, except for her, she's shown as a sophisticated lady, but everyone else is dressed like ordinary Joes, and they are all lonely people, and they are actually suffering away. And Amy Adams is brilliant. Yeah, Chris Pratt. He's like, he has that same personality in practically everything I've seen of his.
He seems to be playing this dark character quite well.
Yeah, I know he comes across the same in interviews as well, right? But who else was there? And a husband. Now that was an interesting character as well. Even though he was there for a small thing, how controlling is he? He doesn't seem to support his wife either. The idea that she's trying to show something, making a documentary, he doesn't show support that the friend shows. Sure, he doesn't understand what she's doing. That's a different matter. But he should be more supportive as a partner, life partner.
Okay then.
And this is his last movie till date. He's only made 4 movies, and this is like his song. He hasn't made a movie since, and this came in 2013, 13 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, he has an interesting career where he has been a music video director.
Yeah, yes.
And this movie is the one he wrote and directed, and it got several Oscar nominations as well, and it won the Oscar for the best original screenplay. Right, and I think it also got a lot of awards for music and production design as well. A lot of recognition there as well.
The screenplay is the best part of it.
Absolutely,
because
yes.
as you were saying, dialogues, it's completely full of dialogues, because that's what makes the narrative.
Yes, even if you take the production design, another aspect of it is the high roofs. If you notice the architecture, there's like a lot of empty space everywhere. So I think it's kind of representative.
Yeah, that's true, because it's also represents how individuals today, we are all lonely people actually, in a way, and we are getting further into that lonely, massive spaces all over. Yeah. So it's also symbolic over there.
Right, I think...
As another student, would you like to ask a question? Or say something about the movie? Or anyone?
Since we have another event.
Yeah, that's okay. Mukut, kya lagi na atas ko?
Right, then I think... yes, again, I think we usually have a massive crowd here. Yeah, today might not be the best because of... Pretty sure it's because of the matches that are happening outside.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Nuwan, for joining us. And you spend a lot of time. You come all the way from Talwatgura as well. So it's been a very interesting discussion and a wonderful film that you have picked as well. So hopefully we'll be able to see you again here for another discussion. Yeah. But before we end, if you would like to add something more, I'll just
thank Archini for inviting me for this. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for moderating it. It's lovely meeting you as well. And yes, I really enjoyed the movie and the discussion as well. And it's my pleasure coming from Talwatgura. Yes, I'll come for any good movies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone.